Hi, I'm Monica Packer, and you're listening to About Progress, where we are about progress made practical. While I danced a ton growing up, I never really caught on to the habit of exercising on my own until I was an adult. Before then, my bouts of exercise usually went hand in hand with going to a school dance. The week before each dance, my best friend and I would suddenly take up running or rollerblading, wanting to be quote unquote fit for our cute dresses and our usually cute dates. But as soon as the dance was over, so were our attempts at exercise. This is a time of year where we start a lot of new things, and I really want you to. But even more, I want you to start things in a way where you can stick with them. This is especially true for exercise because when we go too hard and too quick, we burn out, and our bodies do too. I know I'm not the only one who has strained something doing too much too soon. If you're wanting to begin a new exercise routine, one that you can stick with even when your motivation is low, then today's interview with Megan Dahlman is for you. This is part of our newer series called the Wise Women Series, where I interview other women in the personal development field on a topic they are super passionate about. And Megan is very passionate about helping women who don't feel confident working out gain both the confidence and the skill of sustainable exercise. In her 17 years of professional training, Megan Dahlman has become the sought-after trainer for women over 40 who want to be strong and live a long, energetic life. Leveraging a degree in exercise science and certification as a strength and conditioning specialist, she has an uncanny ability to make fitness and nutrition simple, doable, and most importantly, sustainable. Through her top-ranked podcast, Self-Care Simplified, and online training programs and courses, it's Megan's mission to help women in midlife and beyond feel strong, pain-free, and confident in all aspects of their body. That interview is coming up after a quick break for our sponsors. This episode is sponsored by Air Doctor. Americans take about 20,000 breaths a day and spend an average of 90% of their time indoors. The indoor air that we breathe can be up to 100 times more polluted than outdoor air, according to the EPA. Indoor air pollutants can cause respiratory symptoms like sneezing, congestion, scratchy throat, and even more serious health problems. So what's the solution? Air Doctor, an award-winning purifier that eliminates 99.99% of dangerous contaminants like allergens, viruses, smoke, gases, mold spores, and more. Air Doctor was voted Best Air Purifier by Newsweek, so it's no surprise that 98% of Air Doctor customers agree their home's air feels safer, cleaner, and healthier. And we are in that boat. We live in the Salt Lake Valley, which is famous for many good things, but infamous for its smog because we basically live in a giant bowl. A couple weeks back, we had one of those bad air quality weeks where people were not supposed to go outside much at all. And I noticed that my Air Doctor was not only working well and how clean the air felt inside our house, it was also working overtime and automatically too. Unlike other air purifiers, Air Doctor captures invisible particles 100 times smaller than standard HEPA filters. Head to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code MONICA to get up to $300 off today. Air Doctor comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, plus a 3-year warranty, and $84 value free. Get this exclusive podcast-only offer now at airdoctorpro.com. That's airdoctorpro.com using promo code MONICA. One of the long-standing things that has connected us as a community is the Do Something list. The first one I ever made way back in 2016 totally changed my life and actually led to this podcast. And I have heard from hundreds of women over the years from the About Progress community that the Do Something list has changed their lives too. What is it? Well, it's a way for you to prioritize your own fulfillment, to explore who you are, and all outside the pressures of goals and resolutions. If you're ready to have more hobbies, to have more creativity, to have more fun, or rest, or connection this year, whatever it is, make sure you make your own Do Something list. To help you, I have a free training that is ready for you online right now. Go to aboutprogress.com/DSL, And you can sign up for my free training, which includes a video and audio workshop, resources, including a guide and examples of so many DSLs from real women of this community. Again, go to aboutprogress.com/DSL to get your free training. Megan Dahlman, welcome to About Progress.
Thank you for having me. I am really excited to be here today.
Well, this is going to be the topic that a lot of people need right now, especially as we are getting into the new year. And even the most mature of us or the most evolved of us will still want to work on this area of our life or feel the push to work on it. And it's fitness. And today we're going to be talking about not maybe a typical way they're going to be hearing about fitness everywhere else, which I so appreciate. And it's how to have a realistic fitness routine that helps you, feel like yourself and also to be able to do it when you don't feel like doing it, which is a huge thing. I would actually love to start with a little background with you. What has your history been like with fitness and motivation too?
Yes, so I am a fitness expert. So this is going to be a part of the conversation because it does matter. So I have my degree in exercise science and then became certified as a strength and conditioning specialist. And then originally right out of school, I was working with pretty high level athletes. So I wanted to work with like Olympic level athletes. Professional athletes. And I did for a period of time. I worked on like high performance development, kind of like the upper echelons of what fitness looks like. If you could achieve perfection
Mhm.
in the way your body moves and operates, like that's what we were striving for, kind of like that little final edge. And then what was interesting was kind of along the way, I would work with some younger athletes too, working on athletic performance development in middle schoolers, high schoolers, and inevitably a lot of the women, the moms
Mm.
of these kids would be watching the style of training that we were doing. And they would be like, that looks far more effective and fun than like my Zumba class, actually.
Wow.
Can I do that too? And so
Mm.
I actually started training a lot of what we would consider in the industry Gen Pop, which is general population, which
Yeah.
is I feel like is such a derogatory term because we are all inner athletes. But just started shifting my focus to working more with just the everyday woman who wants to go about life feeling strong and fit and energetic and not hindered by being uncomfortable in her body, whether that's from pain or just clothes not fitting right, like whatever it could be, not having enough energy, being unhealthy. So I really shifted to working with women, and it took many years of evolving from that shift to getting to the point where I realized most people are definitely not at a place where they have the capacity to do the style of workouts they feel like they should be doing.
Mm.
And bringing it back to what I mentioned about the expert thing, a lot of people assume that they should be the expert too. Like they need to have this figured out, especially when it comes to our fitness. We're like, I feel like I know what I should be doing.
Mm.
And that's really not the case. It's okay if you don't know what to do, if you don't know how to get going, and if you continue to try to do a program that looks really expert level, it might not be fitting you right now in this season of life, and that is perfectly okay. So, really, over the last few years, I've really made it my mission to kind of step in the gap between what 3 or 4 years ago, we never even had the word biohacking. If you think about that, like, that's a pretty
Yeah.
new term, but I feel like people who are healthy are becoming ultra healthy with the biohacking kind of culture that's happening. It's like the final, like, 1%, final 0.001%. They're getting even healthier, and then, unfortunately, in our world, the unhealthy people are getting even unhealthier, and there's this gap of people in the middle and maybe the unhealthy ones that are like, I just need help on knowing what to do to get started in a way that isn't overwhelming, that I don't want to become a fitness expert. I just need to take care of my body and I don't know what to do.
Got it.
So that's what my mission has been, is like coming to meet you on your turf where you're at and truly meeting you where you're at and helping you get started with a program that matches your levels right now.
Okay. So when you consider the kind of exercise people typically think they should be doing that in their experience they don't usually have the capacity for, what is wrong with that type of exercise? Like what are the reasons why that's not something they necessarily need to do, but are also not working for them well?
Well, there could be a couple things wrong. It could be the method that they're using might not actually match up to what their goals
Mm,
are. So without knowing it, they could be doing the thing that won't be pointing them in the direction of what the results that they want. And I see this a lot with women, is quite often the goals that they want for their body, what they want to accomplish is, leaning up, losing a little bit of body fat, improving their muscle mass, or seeing some toning and having more energy. And historically, the gold standard for all of that was like cardio-based training or maybe like really high intensity training. So method-wise, we now know that that's actually not the most effective style of training to accomplish those results that you want for your body. So not only do I see a lot of people just doing the wrong style of training for what they're hoping to accomplish, but it's also so hard and heavy and not comfortable.
mm,
And so it requires such high levels of motivation and so
mm,
much time and energy to do a workout routine that isn't even getting them what they want in the long
okay.
run too. And so that's the problem I see a lot. It's like, let's pull it back. Let's unwind this a little bit and start with, okay, what are your goals? What are you wanting to accomplish? Let's make sure that we at least point you in that trajectory. If you want to be a marathoner, great. Then yeah, we do need to be doing a lot of cardio-based style long type of training. But if that's not the goal that you have, let's make sure that we're doing a style of exercise that's actually pointing you towards that goal, but then also is not overwhelming
Mm,
and is not going to make you feel like you have to be so uncomfortable and miserable. Unfortunately, I think a lot of us have this really strong association between fitness and discomfort,
yeah.
fitness and misery. And we see fitness as just this like means to an end of, I'll just do it. I'll get through it. I'll white knuckle my way through it because the results that I want to see, those are important to me. So I guess I'll just do whatever I have to do to get those results. And boy, if we change that perspective and change that experience that a lot of people have with fitness, they will enjoy the process so much more. And because they're enjoying that process, we'll be able to eventually get them their results too.
So for most women, do you see something more about low impact or kind of strength training? Like, what's the actual kind of exercise that maybe they could prioritize better in a way that you've said? Like, it's not like they have to be training for something big or becoming an Olympic athlete or the fitness expert. What kind of exercise is enough, and good for our bodies too, as especially as
Right.
women as we are aging too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know a lot of your listeners are in their 30s, they're in their 40s, maybe even some in their 50s.
Mhm.
And this is important. You want to say, what can I do today that allows me to be a healthy, functioning, fully active woman in her 80s? Like I would raise my hand to that and say, I want to be slowing down when I'm in my 80s. I want to be able to do everything I want to do. So the very best method of exercise, the style that should be at the top of your priority list, like if all you have time to do each week is 2 or 3 workouts, those workouts really should be strength training.
Hmm.
They check off the most boxes for your health.
Okay.
It's great for your metabolism because it builds your muscle mass, and that's the most important thing for your metabolism, which ultimately impacts your body composition as well. So if you do want to lean up, we need to improve your body composition through building muscle mass. It improves your joint health, your joint mobility.
Mhm.
It improves your heart health too. It improves your balance. It improves your coordination. It improves your stamina, your power, just your overall strength. So we're checking off a lot of boxes with that one style of workout right there. Now, I will say that, like, that could be the gold standard that we should all aim for, but that does not mean that that's where you need to start.
Okay.
And this is something that I see a lot right now on social media, and just on other podcasts. It's like, yes, strength training is the gold standard, and it's really important for women to lift heavy weights, and which I agree with 100%. But we end up with a lot of people jumping straight into 30 to 45-minute heavy lifting weight training sessions
Yeah.
with no experience doing anything other than maybe cardio
Okay.
or doing anything at all. Maybe they haven't done any form of training in a long period of time. So for someone who's listening right now, it's January, and they're like, I want to do a regular strength training program. That's great. Let's put that as our 3-month, 6-month goal. But I don't want you to start there if you're starting at square one. Let's start with just moving you regularly. And that could be whatever is the most familiar thing. And that could be simply just going for a walk. And honestly, if jogging is familiar to you, sure, go do that. Even though in the back of your mind, you might be thinking, oh, this isn't the most effective thing for the goals that I have. That's okay.
Okay.
We just need to get you moving somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you start to get into that rhythm of, okay, now I'm consistently showing up for my body in these little bite-sized pieces of time, then I would say let's tweak the substance of what that time consists of. We can start to incorporate a little bit more body weight only style of strength training exercises. And that's where we can start to do things like squats and lunges and push-ups and planks and bridges and all of the body weight style movements that don't require fumbling with equipment. They don't require having to go to a gym. They don't require all of these things that are the normal barriers that might prevent you from exercising. Let's get really good at learning how to control and move your own body with really great confidence, and then eventually start to put some equipment in your hands, maybe add some dumbbells to the mix so that 3 months in, 4 months in, 6 months in, then we're finally looking at a routine that involves some weight training, maybe heavy weight training. So it's a journey. You don't start with the thing you eventually want to get to.
Mm-hmm. My community is familiar with baselines, and this sounds like such an amazing way to have a baseline of movement period, but to use that to build towards what is going to be that gold standard of heavier weights with strength training. And while it can somehow feel like defeating to start, I'm saying in this in quotes, slower or lower. I know you've done this with so many women, with fitness in particular. I've done it with so many women with just habits in general. But having that process in mind of it taking a long time and to build up to it is what's going to help you get there better and in ways that are more sustainable. So can you speak to that a little bit to someone who's just worried about, well, that sounds like not what I want. Like, I want to just do heavy strength training and I feel really good right now. It's the new year. What would you say to that woman?
I would say that the healthiest thing for your body and the wisest thing is to do something that you can stick with for a really long time.
Okay.
And right now your motivation is at its absolute highest. You're surrounded by people that are highly motivated. So you have that social influence too. You're surrounded by everybody is starting new routines. You're going to be influenced by your friends that are wanting you to sign up for the next big hit class that's in town, whatever that might be. And like, so we'll feel those pressures too, both from within and from without.
Yeah.
And so stepping back and realize what is the wisest thing for me to do for my body? Practically speaking, if you just jump into a program that's too hard for you right now, you could run the risk of injury. And honestly, 9 times out of 10, most women that step into programs that are beyond their capacity, they will get injured somehow, whether they realize they're injured or not.
Oh.
And sometimes what ends up happening is something called compensation patterns.
Oh, yeah.
So this is where you start doing movements that your body is not familiar enough with or have the strength to do it properly. And so without realizing it, you might twist or contort your body in a way or use the wrong muscle groups to make a movement happen. And so pretty soon you end up with like a low back issue, a knee issue, a wrist that's angry, neck tension constantly, tension headaches. You're like, what's going on? And a lot of it has to do with jumping in too hard, too fast, and not allowing your body to learn and develop. And I like to say that, fitness is definitely skill driven.
Mm.
I think sometimes we see it as like, well, I just do the thing and I get the results. Well,
Yeah.
you acquire a lot of skills along the way. And I think you're a skier, Monica. We're skiers too in our family up here in North Idaho. But on a ski mountain, you have like the bunny hill, right? You've got the green dots and the blue squares, and you've got black diamond and like double black diamond. So different skill levels. Someone who's brand new to skiing, it is foolish and insane to expect them to do a double black diamond hill. They're going to hurt themselves. Maybe they have the motivation to do it. Sure, that's cool.
Mm.
I'm glad you're motivated, but you have no business being
Yeah.
up there on the double black diamond. And that could be, humbling.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if you want to be a really good skier, someone who doesn't get hurt on the first day, what would be the best method? Learning the bunny hill first, then graduating to the next level, and then the next level. So we need to approach our fitness the same way.
Mm. This episode is proudly sponsored by LolaVie, an award-winning hair care line founded by the ever-fabulous and ever-iconic Jennifer Aniston. You know that feeling when you have a really great hair day? You feel like you're unstoppable, maybe more charismatic, you can't stop touching your hair. I've been having more of those kind of good hair days, and that's exactly why Jennifer Aniston set out to create LolaVie, to bottle up all those good feelings. Now, with the new year, it's time for you to experience those new feelings by prioritizing taking care of yourself in this simple way, having great hair care products. LolaVie's lineup consists of clean, plant-powered products designed for every hair type and texture, so you can have silky, shiny hair without sacrificing hair health. This award-winning brand is powered by their naturally derived peptide bond builder known as B-Pro3 bond technology. It's derived from chia seeds and clinically proven to prevent, protect, and repair signs of aging and damage on hair. It combats the damage right where it starts, guarding against dryness and breakage while delivering high-performance results. I have been a big fan of the restorative shampoo and conditioner, and I've been a big fan of all of the styling products from the glossing detangler to the air-dry cream and so much more. You can unlock Jennifer Aniston-approved hair at lolavie.com and celebrate the new year with stronger, healthier hair. As our loyal listeners, you'll get an exclusive 15% off your entire order when you use the code PROGRESS at checkout. That's 15% off your order at lolavie.com with promo code PROGRESS. Please note that you can only use one promo code per order and discounts can't be combined. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Your hair will thank you. Now that the holidays are ending, I bet you thought your list would get a lot less intense, but I'm sure it's not. With so much going on all day, every day, I want you to think about where you are on your own list. It is so hard to prioritize ourselves, but that's what we need to do so that we can show up as ourselves to our responsibilities. If you find yourself showing up as a less than ideal version of you as you are starting this new year, I want you to think about how you could put yourself on your own list. And here's one way you can do that. Get on the wait list for my first Sticky Habit Intensive for 2025. We are starting mid-February. The intensive is my 21-day live course, community, and challenge that helps busy women form habits that stick. The kind of self-care habits that make women feel more like themselves. Past participants have prioritized feeding themselves lunch, time to work on family history, morning workouts, evening reading sessions, meal planning, and so much more. I am betting any to all of those things sound good right now. So get on the waitlist for the next Sticky Habit Intensive as spots are capped, and the waitlist not only gets first dibs to join before the general public, but they get a decent discount to boot. You can do so by clicking on the link in the show notes or going to aboutprogress.com/intensive. I don't plan to host intensive very many times this year, so get on your list by getting on mine and go to aboutprogress.com/intensive. Well, I'm so glad that you would detail what that path looks like for them. One, so they know, like, this is a fitness expert, again, like saying this is the way. If this is what you want, that end goal in mind, this is the way to get there. We talked about a couple barriers to exercise, like not having the equipment or not being able to go to the gym, or maybe it's even something that's not tangible, like time or not having enough energy. But the biggest one that I would like to spend a bit more time on is that motivation factor.
Yeah.
And I want to speak to it now because, like you said, the motivation in the whole environment, like it's in the air, like it is so high right now, but
Yeah.
it won't stay.
Right.
And I love people who are January joiners. Like I've been a January joiner my
Yeah.
whole life, and I love it. But I want them to be January joiners in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So how can they pursue a fitness routine that is realistic for them? And how can they do that with this mindset and a little bit more knowledge about how motivation works and
Yeah.
how to design things to work with it instead of just
Yeah.
assuming they're going to have this same amount of motivation the rest of the year?
I find it's really helpful to remember that motivation, it's an emotion. It's a feeling, and it responds to your environment, your circumstances. So just like feeling happiness or sadness or anxiety, those are feelings that we have internally based on our circumstances. So right now, you might have really high levels of motivation because the circumstances, it's the beginning of the year, you're coming off the holidays where probably the last few months you weren't making the healthiest choices for your body. Pretty normal. So that feeling of like, I don't feel healthy right now, that really catapults our levels of motivation. Like, I want to do all the things to completely reverse the way that I feel. I want to do a 180 here.
Okay.
So that's super motivating. You're also, like I said, surrounded by a lot of people that are also like running on this motivation train. And so what we know about feelings and any emotion is that because we're human, they don't stay level.
Hmm.
They can't stay high. Your motivation cannot stay high. As much as you want to keep it high, it just won't. And that's a question I get asked a lot. Like, how can I stay motivated?
Yeah.
Well, you can't.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Mhm.
It's like asking, how do I stay happy every day of my life? You just can't.
Yeah.
So it's really important that you're not letting motivation drive the boat. You're not letting motivation
Hmm.
determine what actions you do. Like, there are a lot of days where I wake up and I'm not happy, or I'm not motivated to work, or I'm not motivated to take my kids to school. Maybe I'm tired, I have low energy. But everything on my to-do list for the day that I see as like, this is a responsibility, like this is really important. This is a high priority. I find that I do those things whether I feel motivated to do them or not. They're not as fun to do them on those days. But what's helpful with fitness, because it's something that's so physically uncomfortable, because for most people, especially people who have not made it their profession, which is probably most people listening, it's probably not the thing that you love the most. I'm sure there have been some workouts in the past where you're like, wow, that felt so great. Like all the stars aligned, the weather was perfect, the music played perfectly, my clothes were on point, like everything fit together to have this one workout that felt amazing. That's not the norm.
Hmm.
Most workouts, especially ones that we commit to when we're super motivated, are not very comfortable. And so the ideal thing to do is to commit to workouts that will most likely match your lowest levels of motivation. So right now, I want you to think through, okay, I feel great right now. I'm super excited. I want to do these like 60-minute long HIIT class, whatever it might be. What would you be willing to do on the day that you wake up? Maybe you just started your period. The day that you wake up and your kid is sick and has to stay home. The day that you wake up and a snowstorm hits the area and you're stuck. Or you wake up sick, or, all of those things. Maybe you have an appointment that you have to rush off to. What can you still do in that moment? And what could you say, yeah, I could still show up and do that? Then that gives you the answer to what your workout routine should actually look like.
Okay. No, this is fabulous. And it's funny, like originally when you were talking about motivation and how we don't have the same amount, and how even you as a fitness expert don't always feel motivated to even exercise, right? I almost thought maybe you were going to go a different direction and just say like you just do it, like you get the grit and you just like go get it done, and all that kind of toxic positivity that's out there. So I do
Yeah.
appreciate that you're like, no, let's validate it, let's work with it. And then what happens as they're working with the lower motivation instead of against it? What happens to even that feeling?
Well, honestly, we know, just studies have shown scientifically that fitness is a mood enhancer. So, just physiologically, what getting the ball rolling with a simple, and it could be just going outside and walking around the block and breathing some fresh air. It could be sitting on the floor and doing 2 or 3 core exercises. It could be standing in your doorway and doing a couple like posture stretches. What we know happens in the brain is that we get a serotonin release, a little bit of that dopamine hit that makes you feel good and feel happy. And so it's not like that's what you're aiming for, but you usually realize, like, wow, I feel so much better. I'm so glad I did that. And sometimes it's almost like that's what you needed to be like, oh, that felt good. I think I might do a little bit more. I think I might do a little bit more. There's so many people I work with where I'll say, just do the warm up part. Don't do the whole workout. Just do these 3 exercises that I gave you for the warm up. They'll come back to me afterward and say like, I ended up doing the whole thing. It felt so good.
Yeah.
It's like, you kind of have to remove that expectation of like, I have to do this whole thing or none of it.
Yeah.
That classic all or nothing mentality. It's like, okay, I'm recognizing my motivation is really low right now. How can I peel this back to a baseline of something that I know would feel good, lower my expectations really far down, maybe just 2 or 3 things, my favorite moves that every time I do them, that one hamstring stretch, it just feels good. Just downward dog, just a hip flexor opener, whatever it might be. Do that, and then you could be good with that. That's okay. You could say, I will learn to be content with just that. I have to be proud that I still showed up and did something really small. But many times you might realize that it kind of snowballs and you realize, oh, let me just keep going and I'll stop when I feel like I want to be done. And you might end up doing the whole thing that you originally planned on. But understanding like what those baseline things are, and I love that you use that term a lot around here, is so helpful to have that fallback of, okay, when my motivation is really low, what can I still do so that I don't run this risk of having this giant all or nothing pendulum swinging constantly in my life?
Mm-hmm. Which is so exhausting.
Yeah.
And probably why you may think you hate fitness,
Yes.
because you've been on that pendulum swing for so long.
Yeah.
So Earlier in the interview, you said we are all inner athletes. Can you
Mm.
just share an example of a woman who learned that about herself by following what you've taught us today?
Yeah. Yeah. Most of the women I work with are in their 40s, 50s. Some of them are in their 60s. And a gal that's coming to my mind is a woman who's in her early 60s and never played sports. She never did anything athletic. She was always just in like walking groups. She was health conscious, but she never worked out, what she would call a workout. But she was starting to recognize that her balance wasn't doing very great, and that was scaring her. She didn't have a whole lot of core strength. She had some joint aches and pains, and she could just tell that she wasn't as strong as she wanted to be. So she was willing to just try a little bit more than just her walking group. And so I introduced her to some, really great balance moves, and all of my programs we check off a lot of boxes in like just a 10-minute program. And building some core strength, building lower body and upper body strength. And she started moving throughout the day with so much more confidence and wasn't afraid to get injured anymore, wasn't afraid to just go for hikes with her family or just more adventures than she really wanted to do in the past even. And she came back to me a few months later, like after we had gotten quite a ways into the program. And she's like, Megan, I don't know where along the way, but I kind of feel like I'm an athlete now. She's like, it's never been a word that I ascribe to myself, and I don't play like a traditional sport, but I feel like my body is moving the way an athlete's body would move, and it was just so inspiring to her. And it really inspired her to say, I never want to stop this. I don't want to lose what that feels like, because that's so exciting to me. So I feel like, no matter how old you are, whether or not you played sports in high school, whether or not you're really good at fitness, it doesn't matter. All of our bodies have the potential to move with strength, move with confidence. And that's what makes each of us athletic.
Oh, I'd love for them to have that same experience. And I know they can with you, especially because you do have so much to offer them. Where should they go if they want to learn more from you and even look into your programs that you have available?
Yes. The best program to start with right now, I've got a bunch of ladies who are just starting it in January, is my Jumpstart 30 program. And the whole concept of Jumpstart 30 is to get your health jump-started. Day 1, I teach you 4 movements. It's 8 minutes. You could do it in your pajamas on your bed if you want. Like, it is so simple. And we follow a habit stacking approach where we start to build and grow. And by the end of our 30 days together, you look back and realize like, wow, I have a really well patterned routine here. And I didn't feel like I had to white knuckle my way through this. I didn't feel like I had to put my life on hold to ease fitness into my daily routine. So that's Jumpstart 30. So if anybody listening is like, yeah, I really need help with easing into a fitness routine that I can see myself still doing 6, 12, 3 years from now, like that's the best place to start. So if they just go to vigeofit.com/jumpstart, that's the link for that. And I'll make sure you've got that, Monica. And then definitely come and listen to my podcast. So Self-Care Simplified. We've got lots of episodes that encourage along all these same lines. We keep it so simple. Like we even put it into the title of the show. Like we literally simplify everything that has to do with taking care of your body. Because I know fitness, nutrition, mindset, like all of these things are so overwhelming right now. And it seems like every week, the more influencers we get around us, like it gets more and more overwhelming. And sometimes you just need an expert to tell you, like, don't worry about those things. Don't worry about that. Just focus on this one simple thing right now. And that's what we do on the show. So come listen to Self-Care Simplified.
We will make sure to link to those things as well as your Instagram account. We've covered so much ground today, and I love to always end on this question, though. And it's in that do something spirit that is so important to our community. So what is one thing that women can do to take action on what they learned today?
One phrase that I absolutely love is always something is better than all or nothing. And I think you say something similar of just do something. I think it doesn't apply to something as much as fitness. Our fitness is one of those things that we have a tendency to be all or nothing with. And so just say, what can I do today? And rest in the fact that something, even as small as it might be, it could be just touching your toes, climbing the stairs one more time today. That is infinitely better than nothing.
Fabulous. This has been such an amazing conversation. Megan, thank you so much for your time and for being on About Progress.
Thank you so much for having me. This was an honor.
I love doing that, especially because we got to see more of your side. I hope this episode gave you the hug and kick in the pants you need to grow. If you like this episode, then you will like to hear some of the ones I recorded for Megan's podcast, Self-Care Simplified. We talked about how we as women have been taught habits wrong, and we also did a shorter one on my advice on what to do if you lose motivation. Both episodes are linked for you in the show notes, and I know you will love her podcast. Again, it's Self-Care Simplified. This show is listener supported. Members of the Supporters Club get access to 3 levels of exclusive benefits, including more content and more time with me. My favorite benefit is More Personal, my private premium always ad-free podcast where I lean into the personal side of personal development. All January long, we have been sharing shortened previews of the More Personal content in the About Progress feed. If you want access to more personal content, you can do so and get your first month free if you sign up at the bestie or ride or die level of the Supporters Club using the code FREEMONTH. That code expires February 1st. So again, get your first month free by signing up as a bestie or ride or die with the code FREEMONTH. That's at aboutprogress.com/support. You can always support the show for free. Simply leave a reading and review, make sure you've subscribed and have followed the show, and share the show with a friend. Any of those things are so important to the continuation of this work. Thank you so much for listening. Now go and do something with what you learned today.